afternoon and happy Wednesday. Welcome to Virtual Day Trip to Wine Country. I'm Sam Kimball from New York Wine Events, coming to you from the beautiful Sonoma Valley. As you can see there in my background, we are going to Santa Rosa in Sonoma Valley in Sonoma County. It's a grape growing region that many of you know, that includes some famous subregions within it, the Dry Creek Valley, the Alexander Valley, an amazing place. And we are in for a wonderful treat today. We're heading to St. Francis Winery and Vineyards in Sonoma Valley. St. Francis, and you'll learn a lot more about it, has a relentless focus on being authentically Sonoma and concentrating on the best grapes to make the best wines possible in Sonoma County. And if you have not had their wines, you are missing something. To learn all about St. Francis, you can visit their website, stfranciswinery.com. That's stfranciswinery.com. And I would be remiss, and I can't help myself today, they've got an awesome deal. And normally we wait to do the tasting and talk about the wines, and then I'll say to our guest, where can we get these wines, and are there any incentives or great deals or promo codes? St. Francis has an amazing shipping offer right now on their website. It's too good to be true, and it's too good for me to not tell you at the top of the broadcast. So here's the spoiler alert: 12 bottles for $1 shipping in the US. 6 bottles for $15 shipping in the US. If you've ever bought wine, a bottle or two from a California winery, and you live on the East Coast like I do, your shipping could be 35, 40, couple bottles, it could be $50+. So this is a killer offer. So if you think these wines might be for you, and I can't see why you wouldn't if you love red wine, take advantage of this offer today. While we're in the session, as always, if you have questions or comments, please put them in the Q&A or in the chat in Zoom, and we will get to them. We'll try to get to them in real time on the fly. At New York Wine Events, we've had the good fortune of working with St. Francis for a number of years at our Zinfandel experience and tasting in New York City. I'm really excited about today's guest. It's rare that we have somebody with this kind of a track record and who is as august as our guest is. As a winemaker, she was awarded Best Woman Winemaker by the International Women's Wine Competition. She's also won Zinfandel Producer of the Year in 2014 and 2015 at the California Zinfandel Championship. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it's my pleasure today to introduce and host the winemaker at St. Francis, Katie Madigan. Katie, welcome. We're thrilled to have you on the show and to spotlight St. Francis.
Hi, Sam. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. We're really excited to do this.
It's really awesome that you're here. So a little housekeeping to start. I have to ask you, because I never really thought about this question before, but how did the winery come to be called St. Francis?
It started with our founder, Joe Martin, who began growing grapes here in Sonoma Valley in 1971. And he got a great reputation for being a grape grower that produces great wine. So when we started the winery in 1979, Joe, being a man of his faith, chose his favorite patron saint, which is St. Francis of Assisi, to commemorate the winery. And in fact, we have a bell here that was handcrafted in Italy by the same makers who have made the bells for the popes for the last 200 years. So wow. We're all in with St. Francis after St. Francis of Assisi.
Well, and I should show everybody, just for fun, in my background, I will put, there's a wonderful St. Francis statue on the property right there. I'll get
there is.
You can see it.
That's right. Right in the visitor center. He's the patron saint of animals and ecology. So we like to celebrate that and all the local animals that we have here near and far.
So tell me, when was it the winery founded, and how long have you been there?
The winery was founded in 1979 officially, and then in 1988 we partnered with the Koff family out of New York City, and Joe decided that he wanted to look a little bit into retirement down the road. So we moved a whole mile down the street to the location right in your background. And we have a state-of-the-art facility that we finished in 1999. And then
Wow.
I started just a couple years later. In 2002 was my first internship. So I'm going on 18 years with St. Francis.
Did you start when you were like 10?
I know, it's a common question. I didn't. I was pretty young, but I was definitely old enough to taste what I was making, if you will.
Well, you know, what's great too, and we're going to learn a lot about the wines, and we're going to taste some amazing ones today, is that you've been there and worked your way up through the ranks. So you know so much of the institutional history and the different vintages and the harvests. It's not always that we have somebody with the kind of accolades and awards that you have won, but also somebody whose track record goes back so far that you can really speak encyclopedically to the wines and specifically how they change from year to year. And so that's a real treat today. In your process, Katie, you talk about science and creativity as part of the winemaking, your approach and how you see the art and the practice of winemaking. So I have to ask you, what makes a great wine?
To me, you know, I think that a great wine has a distinct point of view. Something that's true to the style of the wine, true to the varietal of the wine, and that it sets itself apart from its peers, really. I mean, there's a lot of great wine all over the world. So to stand out amongst all of that, I think you have to have something that's very unique and a style that is all your own.
And so when you are making wine and when you're planning and sort of mapping where you're going with the wines at St. Francis, what grapes and types of wine do you focus on?
I focus on Zinfandel, which I like to call California's variety, and then also what is known as the Burgundian varieties, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And then I do have a partner in crime, Chris Luton, and he focuses on making wine with all of the Bordeaux varieties, so Cabernet, Merlot, and even Sauvignon Blanc.
And how many different selections in a given year does St. Francis offer?
We offer about 10 wines that will be available nationally, but here at the winery every year we bottle about 36 to 38 different wines. So we make everything from small lots of 50 cases to larger lots that you can find at everybody's local retail shop.
That's so cool. And then obviously at the winery, I would assume in some cases exclusively at the winery, there are library selections and wines that you're not going to find in the national context.
Correct. If you're part of our wine club, you get some premier wines that nobody else even sees, not even the tasting room. And then, of course, there are some things for visitors that travel all the way out to us that we offer special selections that you will not find in local retailers wherever you may be coming from.
Well, I'm planning, when we're all not on quarantine, I'm planning to be one of those special visitors.
We would love that.
It's been too long. We've been doing Zinex in New York for 5 years. And I usually come out most years I come out for Zinx in San Francisco in the winter. So either that time or another time, I'm now going to make good on my threat to visit St. Francis.
Yeah.
Because I think that
I think
that's
it's
one.
a,
Go ahead.
people are really surprised, you know, they know our wines, they've loved our wines for a really long time. And I think a lot of people are truly surprised when they come to our winery to visit and they see the wines that they love, but then they also see 15 other selections that they can taste that they've never even heard of. So it's exciting to do that, to make wines that are available to everybody on a national level, and then also makes things that are special and unique that just kind of come and go with the vintage.
And you guys are a little bit bigger than some of the other local wineries and in the amount of acreage that you farm, but also I think probably ultimately in the number of cases you produce every year. Yeah.
We do, yeah. We farm about 450 of our own acreage that we have of estate vineyards. And, you know, here at the winery, we do make more than, of course, a lot of the little guys, but I don't think that we do anything much different. We treat every vineyard that we look at and that we contract with as a small parcel of land. So some of our fermentations are tiny and go through an intricate sorting system. And some of our vineyards come in and they are put right into the hopper and go directly to tank. So I don't know that we're doing anything that much differently than a small winery. We kind of like to say that we are that we're a larger winery with a small wine mentality.
That's very cool. And the wines we're going to sample and taste in the virtual tasting today, are they widely available or some of them only available from the website or the winery?
Two of them will be definitely available on a national scale. But then I did bring one with me today that I thought I would like to taste just to showcase the difference and what people can look forward to either if they come out and visit or even just perusing on our website, because a lot of our artisan wines will be available on our website to purchase and ship.
That's important for everybody watching to know that there are some awesome wines that are national distribution, but there are those that are in smaller case production that are only available from the winery. And those artisan selections would mostly fall among those. It's important to keep an eye on those because some of those are really amazing. We visited earlier in the week in Day Trip to Wine Country, we visited Lodi. And I think it's worth noting, in my background, you see these sweeping vistas and the hills. And I think it's worth noting that these are grapes that are in versus Lodi, which is a wonderful region, but very, very flat. These are grapes and vineyards that are in really sort of diverse terrain. And I think that's one of the things that makes a Zinfandel from your winery different than a Zinfandel from Lodi. And people need to really understand that vines are plants and they grow according to the climate and the conditions that they're in. So just give us just a quick, the pedestrian overview. What does it mean to be in such a diverse terrain with these wonderful hills?
It means that I'm never bored, that's for sure, because what's happening here in Sonoma Valley can be drastically different than what's happening not even 20 miles away up on the hilltop at, 1,200, 1,400 foot elevation. Sometimes we get a lot of fog here and the grapes take a longer time to ripen. Up on the hill, they may see sun most of the day, smaller berries up on with being on a slope. So having Zinfandel planted in such diverse locations just means that there's unique spots to make different types of wine in just one county.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Yeah, if you haven't been to Sonoma, it's it's quite different than Lodi. It's different than Paso Robles. It's somewhat different than Napa. It's closer, if I'm not mistaken, it's closer to the ocean than Napa. So you're going to get a little more of the fog factor, the cool breezes at night, and then obviously that's something that can help with grapes that want a lot of sun in the day but need to recover in the evening, like Pinot Noir, for example. So excellent. All right, well let's do a quick tour around the property, and then let's get to tasting. We saw good old St. Francis here. Tell us a little bit about this vista. Where are we looking at here?
This is right down the street from the winery, and these are old head-trained Zinfandel vines coming in at 120 years old,
Oh my
or
God.
120 years young, let's call them, because they're still kicking. As you can see, they're quite vigorous. They have no problems growing ample amounts of fruit, and they make a very, very distinct spicy wine.
That is really cool. And we're going to taste an Old Vines selection in the virtual tasting. And then what is this? I'm assuming it's inspired by the culture and the namesake of the winery.
Yes, so as we talked about before, being named after St. Francis of Assisi, when we built the structure behind you in 1999, we included a bell tower, and that is the bell that rings every hour on the hour. That was handcrafted in Assisi, Italy.
You're not also the bell ringer, I take it?
Not usually, no.
That's a tough job. You got to be really punctual. You're the bell ringer, you got to be punctual.
That's probably the problem.
Awesome. And then last but not least, I think we got a great shot of some vines here. These look like old vines as well, yeah?
Yes, those are definitely old vines. And as you can see, we pulled a lot of leaves on the interior so that all the fruit can have some nice airflow going in and out. And that's how grapes, they ripen as evenly as possible, since I think a lot of people know that Zinfandel is notorious for some uneven ripening and having a hard time being at what we call optimal maturity at the same time. So we like to pull all those leaves, get a little bit more sunlight, a little bit more airflow going in there.
Well, notorious for you as a winemaker. For those of us who just enjoy the wine, we get your best stuff, and we just think Zinfandel is awesome.
It's easy. That's right. It just happens.
It's a pretty powerful potion too, in terms of alcohol content.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, should we jump right into it? What's the first of the three wines? We're gonna taste three Zinfandels today.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What's the first one we're gonna taste?
I think the first one that we should taste should be just our 2017 Old Vines Inn.
Excellent.
There we go.
Do I have it on screen?
You do.
Yeah, that's the one, everybody. Take a look to off to my side. That is the wine. You might, this one is in relatively wide distribution, yeah?
Yes, you should be able to find this at your local retail shop, definitely online. If you can't, there are numerous places that we can get it to you.
Awesome. All right, so what's the Old Vines all about? What are the tasting notes?
So for us, Old Vine is more of a moral code more than anything else. There's no legal definition of what Old Vines means, but to St. Francis, we think that when the Zinfandel vines are at least 50 years old, that their fruit profile changes to be a little bit more concentrated, a little bit more darker in their fruit profile. And that's what we really like to see in our Zinfandels.
Excellent. And how does this one fit into that, and what are the specific notes on it?
I think that for this wine, I generally get a nice core of blackberry with some underlying maybe cranberry notes. But then on the palate, I think that there is this very unique, distinct spicy quality that is known traditionally with Zinfandel. It's kind of a peppery baking spice quality.
And what is your favorite food pairing or meal for this old vine Zinfandel?
You know, here in California, we really like to drink Zinfandel and eat pizza. It's a classic pairing, a good margarita pizza, anything on the barbecue. Those are the top two things that I think everybody's drinking and eating with Zinfandel.
Thank you so much. You just inspired my dinner tonight. I just got a gas-fired pizza oven.
Oh.
It sits out on the patio. We've had a couple of rough test runs, the first couple, but we're getting better at it. But we have some awesome dough, and I think we're going to fire that thing up tonight. And we have a bottle of the Old Vine Zinfandel. So I think your Old Vine Zinfandel. So we're going to pair pizza and Zinfandel. Woe be unto you if it doesn't go well.
Yeah, let me know how it goes.
Listen, you had me at red wine and like
Pizza.
really good full-bodied red wine and pizza. You had me there. So excellent. All right. So, and what does this one retail for, Kate?
I believe this one will retail for about $22.
That's really a value for a wine coming of this kind of quality with the heritage of your winery out of Sonoma Valley. That's pretty awesome.
Good. Yeah. I mean, you know, we believe that great wine doesn't have to be expensive necessarily, and we want to make it available for everybody.
That's cool. Very cool. All right. So we're moving right along. Are we going to do the Dry Creek Valley Reserve?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
So this one has a different label, and you can see it on the side of my screen here. Is that the label that's sort of off-white or tan that you use for the reserve wines?
Yes. So the reserve wine is a very small case production set of wines, and usually its focus is restaurant and fine wine retailers. So wine shops, designated wine shops. I know some states don't always have wine in the grocery stores like we do. But if you have a shop that's designated specifically towards fine wine, you should be able to, or hopefully find this wine there.
Excellent. All right. What's the particular characteristics of this one? And again, for everybody listening, we're talking about the Dry Creek Valley Reserve Zinfandel from St. Francis, 2017.
Mm-hmm. Well, to differentiate from the first Zin that we tasted, which was a blend of about 20 different grape growers that I work with, this wine, this Dry Creek Reserve Zin, actually only comes from 2 vineyards out in Dry Creek Valley. So the Zinfandel is from the Buchignani family. The vines are 60 years old. And then there's about 15% Petite Syrah in there. And that comes from the Mounts family vineyard out in Dry Creek Valley as well.
So help our audience understand something. So Zinfandel coming out of California and from your winery will be called Zinfandel. Mm-hmm. Even in the case of this, where it's slightly a blend, you've got another grape varietal in there as well, 15% Petite Syrah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so we are allowed to use a certain percentage, but still call a wine its varietal on the label. And when you use a designation of an appellation like Dry Creek Valley, 85% of the wine must be of that varietal. So we blend in a little petite to kind of make it a little bit more opulent, give it a longer ageability for people who like to lay it down. You certainly don't have to. It's nice and soft right now, but if you're that wine drinker that likes to save things for special occasions, this is definitely a wine to try.
I love that you mentioned that. I have a problem, and that is that I have a couple of wine fridges, coolers in my home, and each one holds 35, 40 bottles, and they're usually full. And I never get to the special occasion ones because I guess I need to get some new friends. A lot of my friends don't really care. They're like, oh, I'll just have whatever. I'm like, I'm not pouring Katie's reserve wine for you if you
You
don't
can.
care if it's like jug wine or the St. Francis Reserve wine. So that's always been a dilemma for me. That's just a little private moment in public I'm having here. So tell me, this one is specifically designed and produced to go to restaurants and for, sort of fine wine purchases in shops. What's the retail on it, and what's your favorite food to go with it?
I believe that the retail is $36. And I really love to pair this with a little bit more of a well-intentioned meal. So something like duck or a hearty steak with some sort of gravy or sauce on it. I think that this wine has a little bit more body than the first wine that we tasted, and so it needs a little bit more substance.
Excellent. Awesome. All right, let's move along to the Montessio. Am I saying that correctly?
You
Montecillo?
are. Yes, Montessio.
I sometimes in California they say the illo and not the eo, but having lived in Latin America, I tend to sort toward the Montessio. So tell us about this one. Is this do I have the right label up?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Okay.
So this label specifically these are the line of wines that you will only find here at the winery or available on our website. Usually very small case production wines, anywhere from, with the Zinfandels, anywhere from, 300 cases to about 900 cases. And this specifically is from one vineyard, of the Montessio vineyard, and it's about 15 miles south of the winery, up on the hills in the Moon Mountain district. So high elevation, western facing, which just means that it gets a lot of sun all day long. And there are many, many mornings where we have fog here at the winery, and when I go up to the vineyard, it's already 9 a.m. and it's beautiful and sunny, and you can see all the way to San Francisco.
That's amazing. I can't wait to come visit because it's such a beautiful part of the world. What are the tasting notes on the Montessio?
This is a very, very unique vineyard that these grapes come from. The soil is very iron rich. So it's got this red hue to it. And I think because of that, this wine tends to be have a little bit more structure to it. I always say that this is a wine, Zinfandel for Cabernet drinkers. It's pretty hearty. It's got a little bit more savory element to it. So think maybe some grilled sage, some thyme. This is definitely a little bit more of a Zinfandel that you'd want to lay down.
And this is an eminently ageable wine, and maybe
I would say so. Yeah.
You would recommend aging it. So how long has it been aged in barrels and then bottled and kept at the winery before it's released? And then how long after somebody buys it should they lay it down and age it a little more in their cellar?
So it's aged in barrel for about 16 months. And then it's usually held in bottle for sometimes a year before we even release it. So I would say that if you want to lay this down, it could probably lay down for a couple years. Or I would open it up if you have, when you know, some friends over and you're able to really have a nice meal or some really beautiful appetizers, this would be the wine to pair with it.
Yeah, I've had this one. It's particularly great. But this sounds like it's, if you've got a fancier menu than pizza, it would go well with the classic red wine pairings.
I would say so. Maybe a hearty pasta would be a good choice for this wine. But hey, maybe you like to put some truffled mushrooms on your pizza. That would certainly pair nicely.
Yes, yes, I do. Awesome. So now, how do we buy these wines? Do we go to stfranciswinery.com?
Yes, you will go to www.stfranciswinery.com, and there is a shop section at the top of the screen, and it will have all of the available wines that we can ship with that beautiful $1 shipping. Don't forget, Father's Day is coming up, Memorial Day, you know, hopefully summer where we can get out and about. So for me, I'm starting to stock up now myself.
That's great. So stfranciswinery.com, stfranciswinery.com. Again, the deal is 12 bottles for a $1 flat rate shipping anywhere in the US, and 6 bottles for $15 shipping anywhere in the US. That is exciting. And especially because these are such great wines that are also really, really fairly priced. And I think for a lot of people, we've all gotten to the shopping cart, whether it's on a wine retail website or whether it's at a winery website. And, you know, if you see that shipping cost come on, you're like, ah. And a lot of people abandon their shopping cart at that moment in time. So that's why I was excited about today's offer. Last question, Katie. How far are you from San Francisco? So when people are back out and about and moving around traveling, what's the distance to get to you guys?
Yeah, so from San Francisco, we're just about 50 miles north. It's a short, easy, beautiful trip up. So you do probably have to rent a car or, you know, ask some friends to bring you up if you know some friends in San Francisco. But it's not hard to fly in to the airport and get up here.
That's great. Well, I will hopefully be there very soon. Thank you so much for being a part of a virtual day trip to wine country. It's been a pleasure and really an honor. We don't have people who have the kinds of accolades and recognition that you do on a regular basis. So this was a privilege today. Thank you. We hope to see you soon. Be well, and we'll be out to your area as soon as we can.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks everybody for watching. See you later.
Bye.